välkomna till kvällens sista presentation här på vår hållbarhetskväll på väg mot hållbarhet. I'm going to swap over to English now. Ivo, we're welcome here.
Thank you.
You, as a company, when we identified the themes in our universe for companies to cover, we realized that you actually were exposed to several of these United Nations goals. So we will be very interested to hear your story about sustainability and traffic security.
Okay, thank you, Örjan. Hello, everybody. This is going to be in English, not in Swedish, but I suppose you understood that by now. I'm the CEO of Sensys Gatso Group, and I'm going to talk about, just very briefly, a little bit of the numbers on Q3 2022. But then I'll talk about the market and how relevant it is, and it is a growing market, which I think is very interesting for you to learn. Then I'll take you through a couple of case studies, and then I'll link that to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in relation to our company, and I'll wrap it up. So, if you don't know yet, we are used to start here in Sweden with a company called Sensys. By 2015, Sensys acquired Gatsometer, and Gatsometer was the originator of automated traffic enforcement. That is our business. We're in automated traffic enforcement. And we have 50,000 systems installed across the world in 70 countries, 263 employees in 7 countries. And we're a total solution supplier, so hardware, software, and services, the whole bit. We have the ambition to grow to 1 billion Swedish kronor by 2025. 600 million of that will be TRaaS, or recurring revenue, that's important, and an EBITDA level of at least 15%. And as you can see by the numbers below, we're on track on achieving that. What I'd like to show you here as well, because this has been announced to the market as individual press releases, but we have had a really good year in terms of bringing new business in. So orders in both the Netherlands as well as in Sweden. So our 2 home markets, we secured the business for another 12 years in each of these markets. And it brings the company to a record 1.5 billion Swedish krona order intake for the full year. So that's really interesting. Then looking at the market towards growing and relevant. And why is that? Because so many people die in traffic. So last year, only 1.3 million people died in traffic, and 40 million people were seriously injured. And it hits mostly younger people, so children and young adults between 5 and 29 years. All that's the main reason why they die is actually accidents in traffic. So it's also depending on where you grew up in the world. If you're living in Europe, you're in a good position. If you're living in Africa, you're not. Because as you can see here by these numbers, the chances of dying in traffic are 3 times as high. So it is a relevant market and it's growing. It's a $3 billion US market and it's growing with 12% per year. One of the key reasons for that is because of the impact this has on the gross domestic product of each of the individual countries. So it is about 3% of the gross domestic product. So there's every reason for the governments to introduce automatic traffic enforcement. So speed, as we say, speed kills. It kills immediately, but it also does it in an indirect way, because cars obviously produce pollution. And pollution, you know, the level of people, or the amount of people dying because of pollution is actually 6 million every year. Nearly a quarter of that is related to pollution coming from traffic. And that is mainly in the city areas, right? Because we see many more people are living in the urban areas, and it is a growing trend. I'll talk about it in a minute. So speed kills, traffic kills in the short term, but also in the long term. So what do we do about it as Sensys Gatso? What are our solutions? And just take out 4 of them. There are many more, but I think these are ones are interesting to have a look at. We look at spot speed. So you will see what I mean by that. And then there's point-to-point. That's relatively new, maybe to the Swedish market. And there is low emission zones, which is about making sure that the traffic that enters into a city is traffic that is allowed into the city. And then I mentioned specifically a greenfield traffic enforcement solution we just recently signed a contract for. So probably some of you in this room have had a nice picture coming from Traffic Fairgate, right? That's the equipment we make, and we make very nice pictures. I hear that all the time. People don't like them, but we make nice pictures. And that's what we're known for. But in reality, it only represents 15% of our business. But it's really important to us. Why? Because it represents the Vision Zero philosophy, which we as a company are the only ones that can actually say that we were at the foundation of introducing that to the world together with Traffic Fairgate. And we're so happy that we actually brought in the largest order in the industry of 850 million Swedish kroner just in December. So that's a big win, which we achieved with our new platform, which is Flux. And it's a contract for 12 years. So you can imagine how important that is for the company and for our business going forward. So a very long lasting relationship, which we now can continue for another 12 years. Also to mention here is that half of that business is going to be recurring business. So we all know that we love recurring business, right? So this is half of this 850 million will be recurring. This is something you probably have not seen in Sweden, but this is what we call point-to-point. So if you look at the picture below, you see a gantry, that's how we call it. There's cameras on these gantries, and they actually read license plates. It's called automatic number plate recognition. So the car enters the section, and it's registered, and it exits the section at the second part there, where you see the second gantry. And then the average speed is being measured, again, using ANPR. If you're going too fast, obviously, you will get a fine, a citation, we call that. So, and we have these in place in many places in the world, but these are examples which we have in the Netherlands, where we just renewed a contract and brought in a new contract for rural roads. And again, these are long-standing contracts. You talk about contracts for 10 years. So that is what we like. And the last bullet is maybe the most important one here. What it really does, it helps reduce speed, because if you know that your license plate is going to be seen by the system, you will definitely slow. And by slowing down, the emissions are being reduced by 20 to 30%. So this is data. Very huge impact on pollution. That very similar system you can also apply to cities. So this is the city of Amsterdam. And where you see a blue dot, we are at the right level of emissions. But if you see a red dot, the emission levels are too high. And we're doing this in Amsterdam and, for instance, also in Haarlem. The number plates are being read by the system. If the car is not allowed into the city, you see in the box underneath what kinds of cars are not allowed into the city. Guess what? You get a citation. And so again, this is a pretty bulletproof system, and it really helps in reducing emissions in the cities, which I believe are going to be more and more important. Amsterdam has as an ambition to reduce the emission in the inner circle of Amsterdam to zero. So no, only electrical cars and electrical vehicles are allowed into the city of Amsterdam by 2030. Yep. So this is just graphically showing what's happening there. The red dots it means that the emission levels are too high, above the standard of 40.5 microgram. And then on 27, you see it being reduced, and going forward, this will be reduced even further. So this is something, with the urbanization going on, is something we will probably see happening more and more across the world. Now, this I found really interesting. This is Ghana in Africa, right? It's a kind of a developed market in the region, and we set up a public-private partnership with the government of Ghana. And in a joint venture agreement, because in a country like Ghana in Africa, you need to have a local partner. So we have 40% of the joint venture, and we have just signed a contract for 800 million Swedish kroner for 11 years. And that's of course a huge contract. It's comparable to what we're doing in Sweden. It's actually a pretty good country from a jurisdiction point of view. So it is a reference country for the region. And we will make an impact, because the death in traffic in Ghana are nearly 3,000 a year. Just compared to Sweden, it's only 200 a year. So it's a huge difference. But also here, the impact on the gross domestic product of 3%, 2.4 billion US dollar, is going to come down dramatically, we foresee, when we have implemented it. So if you fast forward 5 years, I'm really interested to see what the impact has been of our company on the society of Ghana. So, and even 10 years from now, it will be even higher. So very interesting and important business opportunity for us. So how does this relate to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals? And there's two of them, goal number 3 and goal number 11. This is goal number 3, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. So 1.3 million people die in traffic every year. You've seen that number. The goal is to halve that by 2030, right? However, what we see happening, traffic goes up and the numbers are going up as well. In the United States, it actually has increased. So there is a sense of urgency to start automated traffic enforcement. We see examples in Ghana, we see it in Saudi, and we see it in other parts in the world as well. But also to make sure that we curb the negative trend of what we see in the United States. And their funds are being made available to do that. So that's goal number 3. Goal number 11 is make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. What we need to know is that by 2050, it is expected that 2/3 of the global population will live in an urban area. And if you remember, I mean, the pollution is actually taking place in these areas. So what we see is that there will be growing opportunities for environmental zone, school zone, and city speed and red light enforcement going forward. So what will definitely have an impact on the positive side for us as a company. So what are the key takeaways? Sensys Gatso operates in a relevant and growing market with an all-time high order book and a growing customer base. We have a leading global market position on automated traffic enforcement since 1958. And we're a full solutions provider in the market with any combination of software, hardware, maintenance, and expert services. And we are transitioning the company from selling boxes, what you saw in Sweden, that's how it started, into a recurring TRaaS business, targeting 60% of our revenues by 2025. And we have 2 important United Nations goals, number 3 and number 11, that support our global growth opportunities and create a sense of urgency with our customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivo. Very interesting presentation, and thanks for highlighting how important this is, and also how we understand that the United Nations Sustainability Goals are really driving your business. And I suppose, as a final kind of remark or question, that is a discussion when you talk to your clients, that this is something that is important, not only from a financial perspective, but also from a sustainability perspective. Is that the case?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's a good thing that the United Nations Sustainability Goals are there, because it puts forward the framework for governments to drive their political agenda against. And we're so lucky to be, with 2 of these goals, be part of that and can really contribute. So that I feel proud of that, being part of Sensys Gatso and being able to make a difference in the world.
That's a fantastic conclusion. Ivo, thank you very much for coming here.
Thank you.